For the first time in Nations Cup, the Dodge Viper has shown its speed to take the top pole position for the day. Now, Jeff Morgan, that is you. I suppose there's that old saying, you can't substitute cubic inches.
Well, it's a great circuit for the Chrysler Viper, and obviously this is our test track as well, so we hoped we would do well, and it's just sort of culminated in the time being the right time in terms of development and getting here to the circuit. So we're very happy. The crews worked really hard, but we're excited. We've just got to do the job in the race now.
Yep, it's Jeff Morgan's first ever pole in the MegaMantis.com Nations Cup Championship. He'll carry one of our trackside onboards. Here's Tony Quinn carrying the second of the Maguire's onboards. Morgan's time, 1.1 seconds underneath the existing lap record. Paul Stokell will start beside him on the front row. Noski and reigning champ and series leader Jim Richards on row 2 as we welcome Craig Denyer to the commentary box.
Yeah, Rusty, good quality field here at Eastern Creek too. Tony Quinn qualified 9th fastest, just ahead of Mahir Al-Gandri in the Ferrari, Scott Shearman, Steve Bairds, Mike Downard, unfortunately John Chulin, a non-starter after a blown engine in the Nissan qualifying.
Keep in mind, their rolling starts in Nations Cup, so we're set to go here at Eastern Creek. You're riding with Tony Quinn there in the VIP Pet Foods Porsche, but look at the lead that Jeff Morgan has pulled out as they sweep through turn 1 for the first time. That's a pretty quick one, Cam McConville.
It's great to see Jeff Morgan out in front too, Rusty. He has done a lot of testing here at Eastern Creek, and he's been working hard in conjunction with Rick Bates. Has been doing some testing in this car, but Jeff has really come on this season.
Viper, Lambo, Ferrari in the top 3. Back with Tony Quinn, the VIP Pet Foods Porsche GT3. Fitzy and it looks like Jimmy Richards just ahead of him on the road as well.
Keep in mind, this is an intense race already, but it was just as intense in qualifying yesterday. Only in the latter stages of the session did Paul Stokell get pipped by Jeff Morgan for pole, and what a stunning time it was too, a 1:35.93. And already Jeff Morgan seems to be showing, I guess, Cam, the same sort of pace.
Well, look, the Viper is really well suited to this circuit too. Long straights, not too hard under braking, flowing corners, and you can see that the Vipers right through the field are doing very well.
And of course, Morgan would be very quick at this track. He does a lot of testing at Eastern Creek, had a big crash here some years ago in Porsche Cup, but certainly Morgan would probably do more laps around here than any other racetrack in Australia, so great to see him so competitive this weekend.
Cameron McConville's endurance race teammate Rick Bates has been doing a lot of miles in this car and working closely with Jeff on its development. Seems to be paying big dividends at the moment. Second position, Paul Stokell, who's also second in the championship in the Lamborghini Diablo. Third is Mark Noski in the Ferrari. Then it's our championship leader, Jim Richards. 93 points is the advantage he carries into this round, and it's consistency, Craig Denyer, that's really helped him get there.
Yeah, Jimmy always finishes every race. Darcy Russell now making a run down the inside of Jimmy, coming down the main straight into turn 1. Oh, close. Richards shuts the door well and truly, though.
Well, you have to be a lot further down the inside for Jim Richards to give you enough room, and Darcy wasn't quite all the way through, and Jim went right around the outside. The Porsche should be reasonably well balanced through the high-speed turn 1 corner, and also under brakes is where the Porsche will make up some ground, but certainly it is not the ideal racetrack for that particular make and car this weekend.
Different story for the Dodge Viper. We talked, Craig, at the beginning of the year about the technical changes that have been allowed to these cars. Here they're really starting to shine.
Yeah, really brought them alive. Certainly the bigger brake package. They're carrying about 100 kilos less weight. Also revised ACR body kit cylinder heads on the car, so they're cranking out 20 or 30 more horsepower. So they've certainly become a very, very competitive package in Nations Cup.
We've seen wins for Porsche, wins for this car, the Lamborghini, and of course, wins for Ferrari. Will we see another name added to the Nations Cup list today in Jeff Morgan and the Dodge Viper? Right now, Stokell doing a good job in second position. Third is Mark Noski. Keep in mind he's carrying that injury from the crash at Canberra earlier this year. Had a test in the Prancing Horse Ford very recently in preparation for the endurance races. They elected to withdraw from the Queensland 500, but he's at least here competing in the Ferrari.
And very quick too in qualifying. He was only 0.2 off the Lamborghini's time, all 3 under Stokell's lap record from last year, so he's certainly carrying plenty of pace in the Ferrari.
Just looking at the back too of Jeff Morgan's car, Paul Stokell's Lamborghini, looks like he's struggling to get the car into the apexes in some instances. You can see that it has a little bit of mid-corner push just looking out the back, which also costs him coming out of the corner. So even though the Viper looks faster down the straight, I think Jeff Morgan's got a better balance in his car and able to carry a little bit more mid-corner speed. You can see there the Lamborghini running wide, really struggling to get it into the apex.
We've got dramas here. Mahir Al-Gandri has stopped on the run between turn 9 and turn 10. Now, not quite sure what's happened there.
The Golden Spike Energy Ferrari 360 Challenge, another one of the cars run out of the Prancing Horse stable. Mahir loves his motorsport. Malaysian businessman also did the Nürburgring 24-hour race earlier this year with Ross Palmer and Peter Floyd.
Back aboard with Jeff Morgan in the Dodge Viper, and he has been, from the moment the teams arrived here on Friday for practice, he's been dialed right in, Jeff Morgan, a 1 minute 37.03 to take provisional pole, and that's underneath the lap record, and then backed it up to grab pole yesterday.
Also the first pole for the Dodge Viper since Gary Walden's pole at Bathurst in 1999.
Yep, so it's the first time in the championship that we've actually had a pole for the Viper. But now, Morgan under a little bit of pressure here from Stokel. Interesting that Noski hasn't been able to stay in touch with them.
It is interesting. He may be just struggling for a little bit of match practice too. He has been out for a while with that injured arm, but what is more interesting is that car is still left in the middle of the road. I can't believe they haven't either got out and pushed that car away or brought out a safety car, because that's quite a dangerous spot. If you're following 2 or 3 cars, they pull out at the last minute, you could easily run straight in the back of that Ferrari.
Just checking the timing monitor, guys. 3 now under the lap record. Morgan, Stokel and Darcy Russell now coming through. 136.64 Morgan and a 136.84 for Stokel.
Good effort there by Darcy Russell as they came out of turn 12. He seemed to have sized Jim Richards right up, right in behind him, and used the horsepower of the Dodge to great effect.
And he's also got more comfortable too, Rusty, with this car as the season's gone on. You can really see that. Darcy Russell has raced all various things in his career, open wheelers, Formula 5000s, but he's really come to grips with this car, and obviously a lot easier to drive for him as they've progressed with it.
Now that the package for the Viper has been very much developed by Barry Jones, Darcy Russell, Rusty French and all the crew, they're a very cost-effective package. They can actually build one of these Vipers now, land them on the racetrack for under $200,000 in this form. So very cost-effective motor racing at this end of the field.
Russell's been pretty consistent too, lapping in the 138s, and in fact the last lap around a 137.22. So it was a quick one from Darcy that paid dividends. Here is another Dodge Viper in the hands of Morgan. Now, Al Gadri's got that car running by the looks of it, so that intermittent problem, whatever it is, no, it's stopped again, so he's at least been able to get it some distance off the track there, Cam.
And that's fortunate, because it was in a precarious position. Even though the drivers know it's there, at the heat of the moment, it's very easy to be in battle and forget that it's parked there, so I'm glad he's been able to get it out of harm's way. On
board with Tony Quinn in the VIP Pet Foods Porsche, second in the Targa Tasmania rally this year, and if you haven't heard of VIP Pet Foods in recent weeks, I don't know where you've been living.
Yeah, Tony was running third in the series. Didn't have the best weekend at Queensland Raceway. First time he's been to Eastern Creek this weekend. Of course, both his boys, Clark and Kent, run Formula Ford in the Queensland State Series, and good support too from Mum Christine and all the rest of the family.
On the run home, in the opening of 3 races here in the 5th round of the megamantis.com Nations Cup. 3 rounds to go after this one, and still another 2 races to come your way right here on trackside this afternoon. This is the battle for third between Noski and Darcy Russell. Up ahead, Jeff Morgan leads the way from Paul Stokel, but it seems as though options are fast running out for Paul.
Well, just looking at the car language too of Jeff Morgan's Viper, he certainly hasn't been stressing that car. He's been looking after his tyres. I think he's got a little bit in reserve, whereas Stokel's been really chasing, so Jeff's doing it very comfortably.
Plenty of non-starters too in this race. Bob Thorne, blown engine in the Super Cheap Jag. Sam Newman, big crash at Phillip Island, plenty of damage, so also a non-starter. The second Lamborghini for Wayne Park also didn't eventuate. Also John Chulin and Ian Palmer's Honda also had problems in qualifying.
Good last-minute run here for Paul Stokel, but it won't be enough. Jeff Morgan takes his first victory in Nations Cup, and what a fine way to do it too. Led from pole. The former Porsche Cup champion returns to the winner's circle. His third resolved in favour of Mark Noski, but a terrific drive by Darcy Russell, who threw out absolutely everything at the end there.
He did, and looks like Jimmy Richards settles in for a good, strong finish. Again, Jim's always in the points, but...
Steve Beards. Car 24, Steve Beards. Now,
lots of damage to the back there.
Is that the turn coming on to the final straight? We'll just check on that for you.
Now, I wonder how he's done that. Perhaps on the gas a little too early. Yep, on the exit of turn 12, Cam.
That's a big crash, big damage, rear-engine car. Let's see what happened. He lost it and wasn't able to stop it in time. Now, these cars do run ABS, so when you spin the car, let's have a look on replays. Lost it there. You can see that the wheels are still turning. hasn't been able to lock the brakes up, and that is one of the disadvantages of ABS. He really didn't put his foot on the brake at all, and perhaps could have avoided some of that damage, but that's a big, heavy crash.
Morgan, your winner in the opening race in round 5. Paul Stokel home second, just 0.3 of a second behind him. Then it's Noski, Russell, the reigning champ Jimmy Richards putting more valuable points in the book. Scott Shimon rounds out the top 10.
Jeff Morgan, race 1 is yours, and you look tired. You worked for that one.
Oh, well, the years are catching up on me now. Yeah,
so was that Diablo?
No, that Diablo didn't give me an inch to move, and he's really trying hard, so it was a tough fight.
Welcome back. This is Trackside on your home of motorsport. Time now to take a look at some of the highlights in race 2 in the 5th round of the megamantis.com Nations Cup. This is a reverse grid race. Downard and Shearman on the front row. Tony Quinn and Neil Bates on row 2.
Yes, Neil Bates taking over the drive from Steve Webb in car 22. Noski from position 9. Stokel alongside the Lamborghini. A rolling start as Mike Downard leads him away from pole position.
Now watch this here. Watch this move by Dominic Beninka as they sweep into turn 1 for the first time. He's on the outside in the TNT Porsche, and Cameron McConville right around the lot of them.
Big move all the way around the outside. He knew that to win this race, he needs to get in front early and brake later than anyone. Had a great line, and the car hung on. Great move by Dom.
Neil Bates up to second. Then Tony Quinn coming through. Downard now back to 4th. Fitzy on the outside of Downard.
Given that this is a lead-up race to the Queensland 500, how much would this be of benefit to, say, a Neil Bates?
No, it would be. There's no doubt about it, because you're in plenty of traffic. It's obviously not a long race, but certainly as far as dicing traffic, it's all race miles, and race miles is far better than any testing you can do.
What this really shows you is how hard it is for the guys at the back of the field, the likes of Jeff Morgan, who took out the opening race at Eastern Creek, to work their way through the field. Darcy Russell finished 4th. He's another one who's trying to thread his way through the pack. Looks like Mark Noski's made a good start.
Yeah, Noski doing well. A lot of development on this prancing horse car, number 4, running Olin shocks. And they've really worked hard this year on getting the corner speed of that Ferrari right. So it's probably got a lot more development in it than the rest of the prancing horse cars.
Jeff Morgan having a go at Jim Richards, and Richards is a little bit boxed as they come down into turn 9. Morgan finds a way past, but he's still tucked in behind Jimmy. They're fighting their way through the lap traffic, and it's proving a little more difficult than they thought.
It is, and you can see Jimmy got held up there. Cost him a lot of momentum. Probably 2 corners it took to get past Downard, I think it is there. And looks like Morgan got through on the inside, so he certainly lost less time out of that move.
Great to see Dominic Beninka back at the front of the field too in the TNT Porsche, as we see Paul Stokel.
Look at this move here from Stokel. Sticks the nose of the Lamborghini Diablo up the inside. That is turn 1, the fastest turn on the circuit. And now you can hear him going past Tony Quinn there. Finds a way up the inside in behind him. Darcy Russell doing battle with Mark Noski by the looks of things. So Tony Quinn right in the thick of things here.
And isn't Paul Stokel having a great year? Back into second now in the Maguire's Drivers' Championship and Nations Cup. Been signed by Dick Johnson Racing for the long-distance endurance races this year in V8 Supercars.
And Craig has also helped cut down the points lead. Jim Richards carried a 93-point lead into this round of the championship, but he's gradually eaten away at that with his 2nd place in the opening race. Now, Noski, a run down the inside at turn 9, does it too on Tony Quinn. Darcy Russell wanting to follow him through, and I think you'll find the Viper will stretch its legs on the run between turns 9 and 10.
Yeah, and you should see, there he goes, straight through on the inside. Nice clean move by Darcy Russell, so he needs to latch onto the back of Noski now.
Now Neil Bates under pressure from Mark Noski in the Budweiser Ferrari. Russell just behind these two. Look at the awesome power of this Dodge Viper. Down the main straight at Eastern Creek. V10, 8 litres. Can he do it into turn 1?
What a brave move by Darcy Russell around the outside of both Neil Bates and Mark Noski, using the power of the Viper to perfection. Went right around the outside of them. Good move.
Well, it also showed just how much grip the Viper has too, with that aerodynamic package they've got, the under tray at the rear. You can see at the back of the car, that car is seriously quick.
Don Beninka has had plenty of speed so far in the TNT Porsche, but under increasing pressure here from Paul Stokel. Stokel has a run down the inside at turn 2. And it just seemed as though Dominic couldn't quite match him there.
No, well, he was smart enough to know that Stokel was already there along down the inside, so it gave him enough for him to go through.
Good to see Dominic in much better shape this weekend, getting to grips with the Michelin, with the Pirelli tyres. I should say that they've proved quicker than the Michelins he's been running on earlier this year, so good to see that he's finally back at the front end of the field.
Jeff Morgan's got a good run on Mark Noski here down the inside at turn 1 and gets there as well. There's Peter Fitzgerald. Haven't seen too much of him so far today, but he's Racing quite well at the moment, up the road ahead of Jeff Morgan and in behind Darcy Russell.
Yeah, Fitzy's just on a 1:38.2 and was commenting in the pits early today that the engine is due for a rebuild. Interesting that both Fitzy and Jimmy's Porsches are about half a second off last year's times.
We talked before, Cam, about the aerodynamic package of the Viper. Just watching Darcy Russell through turn one there, the car looks very stable.
It does, very, very stable, and that's where the Viper has come into its own this particular weekend through the high-speed corners. It's also very soft in the back. You can see it leaning right down, but certainly got grip. There's no doubt about that.
Running the new Hollinger 6-speed sequential gearbox now in the Vipers as part of the upgrade package. And certainly the gearbox that was in the car before under racing conditions, they kept breaking third gear, so we threw them away. They've got a Hollinger 6-speed sequential, and certainly that's made a mammoth amount of difference to the competitiveness of the Viper this year.
Race victory number 6 for Paul Stokell this season. That's the best effort also for the year for Darcy Russell in second, just ahead of our race 1 winner, Jeff Morgan. The Porsche's come across the line. Dominic Beninka just in behind Peter Fitzgerald. There's our championship leader, Jimmy Richards. But he was carrying a 93-point buffer into this round. It's been further eaten away by Paul Stokell after his victory in race 2 in the 5th round. Darcy Russell second, Morgan third, Chnosky fourth, just ahead of Fitzgerald. Then it's Beninka, Jim Richards, and the rally champion, Neil Bates. Tony Quinn, Mahir Al-Gadri, Scott Shearman and Mike Downard round out the field.